Next year marks the 80th anniversary of the end of World War II, a conflict that reshaped the entire world. While we often remember the major battles and iconic leaders, the war is also full of incredible, lesser-known stories of ingenuity, bravery, and resilience. Today, we're diving into 3 of these fascinating chapters that you might not have learned about in history class. Imagine being a German soldier, peering through your binoculars, and seeing an entire American armored division advancing. Tanks, trucks, artillery, all rumbling towards your position. You report back. Your commanders divert troops to counter the threat, but when they get there, nothing. The division has vanished. What happened? You just encountered the Ghost Army. Officially known as the 23rd Headquarters Special Troops, this top-secret U.S. Army unit had one of the most unique missions of the war: to deceive the enemy. They were masters of illusion, a traveling roadshow of deception. Their arsenal wasn't filled with live ammunition, but with inflatable rubber tanks, trucks, and airplanes. These could be pumped up in minutes, creating the illusion of a massive military force from a distance. But sight was only one part of the trick. The Ghost Army also included a sonic deception company. They would blast powerful speakers with recordings of troop movements, clanking tank treads, and the sounds of bridge construction, all to convince German intelligence that a large-scale operation was underway. They could mimic the sounds of an entire division, day or night. To complete the illusion, they engaged in what they called special effects. They would drive a few real trucks in loops to create the impression of a long convoy, or wear different unit patches and hang out in local French towns, spreading false information for enemy spies to overhear. Their performances were so convincing that they are credited with saving thousands of Allied lives by drawing German units away from real invasion points, like the D-Day landings. They were artists, actors, and engineers, and their stage was the battlefield of Europe. A truly ghostly and genius operation. Now, let's shift from the battlefield to the world of art and culture. As the Nazis swept across Europe, they weren't just conquering land. They were committing the largest art theft in history. Hitler, a failed artist himself, planned to build a massive Führer museum in his hometown, filled with the world's greatest masterpieces, stolen from museums and private collections, especially from Jewish families. Works by Michelangelo, Da Vinci, Vermeer, Rembrandt, all were at risk of being destroyed or lost forever. In response, the Allies formed a special group unlike any other, the Monuments, Fine Arts, and Archives Program, better known as the Monuments Men. This was a team of about 350 men and women, many of whom were museum directors, art historians, architects, and archivists in their civilian lives. Their mission was to go into the war zones, often right behind the front lines, to track down and rescue this priceless cultural heritage. It was an incredibly dangerous job. They dodged bullets, navigated minefields, and interrogated Nazi officials to find hidden caches of art. They discovered troves of masterpieces stashed away in the most unlikely places: salt mines, remote castles, and hidden basements. One of the most famous discoveries was in the Altusee salt mine in Austria, where thousands of artworks, including the Ghent altarpiece and Michelangelo's Bruges Madonna, were stored. As the Reich crumbled, a chilling order was issued by Hitler, the Nero Decree, which commanded the destruction of all German infrastructure, including the mines where the art was hidden. The Monuments Men, along with brave local miners, raced against time to defuse bombs and secure these sites, preventing a cultural catastrophe. Thanks to their courage and dedication, over 5 million cultural items were returned to their rightful countries after the war. They saved 1,000 years of Western culture. Finally, let's turn to the Pacific Theater and one of its most brutal and pivotal conflicts, the Battle of Okinawa. Codenamed Operation Iceberg, this was the final major battle of World War II, taking place from April to June 1945. Why was this small island, just 60 miles long, so important? Okinawa was the strategic doorstep to mainland Japan. For the Allies, capturing it meant securing air bases from which to launch the final invasion of the Japanese home islands. For the Japanese, it was the last line of defense, a sacred part of their homeland, and they were determined to defend it to the last man. What made this battle so horrific was the nature of the fighting. The Japanese commander, General Ushijima, abandoned the idea of stopping the American landing at the beaches. Instead, he implemented a strategy of defense in depth, using Okinawa's rugged, hilly terrain and a complex network of fortified caves, tunnels, and machine gun nests to bleed the American forces dry. This resulted in brutal close-quarters combat. U.S. Marines and soldiers had to clear out these positions one by one, using flamethrowers and explosives in what became known as blowtorch and corkscrew tactics. The fighting was relentless, taking place in torrential rain that turned the battlefield into a sea of mud. The battle wasn't just fought on land. At sea, the U.S. Navy faced the full terror of the kamikaze attacks. Japanese pilots, in a final, desperate act, would deliberately crash their planes into Allied ships. Over the course of the battle, nearly 2,000 kamikaze attacks were launched, sinking dozens of ships and causing thousands of casualties. Tragically, the civilian population of Okinawa was caught in the middle. Urged by Japanese propaganda to fight to the death and fearing capture, a devastating number of civilians lost their lives. The Battle of Okinawa became the deadliest battle in the Pacific War, with staggering casualties on all sides. It served as a grim preview of what an invasion of mainland Japan would look like, and heavily influenced the decision to use the atomic bombs to bring the war to a faster conclusion. The Ghost Army, the Monuments Men, the Battle of Okinawa. Each of these stories reveals a different facet of World War II. They show us the incredible creativity used to deceive an enemy, the profound commitment to preserving our shared human culture, and the brutal reality of the war's final days. As we reach the 80th anniversary of the end of this global conflict, remembering these lesser-known tales helps us appreciate the full scope of the sacrifice, ingenuity, and loss that defined an era. Thank you so much for watching. If you found these stories as fascinating as I do, please hit that like button and subscribe for more deep dives into history. Until then, stay curious.